Okay, so there's been a lot of talk about natural immunity versus vaccine immunity. A new CDC report came out yesterday comparing the two. Nine Health expert Dr. Payal Kohli joins us to answer some questions about that report. Good morning. Thanks for coming in.
Corey.
This report's really interesting because I was reading through it a little bit. So the agency found that both infection-induced and vaccine-induced immunity are durable for about the same amount of time. Is that right?
Well, it's interesting. So the natural immunity usually is good for about 6 months.
Okay.
But after that, it's a little bit of a toss-up.
Okay.
What we also found is that not everybody gets natural immunity. And that's one of the reasons we're really pushing people to get vaccinated, whether they've had COVID or not, because about 5 or 6% of people don't make antibodies at all, even after they get infected.
Right.
So if you've been infected, you have a 5.5-fold higher risk of getting reinfected as compared to somebody who's been vaccinated.
Okay. So the CDC also recommends that those who have COVID still get the vaccine as well.
That's exactly right. So even if you've had COVID, you're recommended to get the vaccine. And again, the reason is because getting that vaccine really boosts those antibodies. In fact, it protects you twice as much if you've had COVID and then get the vaccine. But one thing that's important to think about is that the order of it matters as well.
Okay.
So if you've had COVID and then get the vaccine, that's a different type of antibody response than if you've had the vaccine and then get COVID.
Okay.
Because that's almost considered, if you think about it, like a breakthrough case, right?
Right.
Yeah, so you're a little bit more susceptible. But if the opposite, if you've had COVID and then get the vaccine, you've actually really cemented in that immunity.
So I was going to ask, that's one of my questions, is if you have both, if you had COVID first and you get the vaccine, both of the antibodies together, that's really like the most robust form, right?
That's exactly right. In
Okay.
fact, some experts say that it might even be protection for life. Now, there are some preliminary studies that say even those people should think about getting boosters, because boosting your immune system is kind of like working it out. It's like flexing your immune system's bicep. It's a good idea to do it every once in a while, but.
And I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you because I'm just in case. So anyone who has had COVID, you still recommend the vaccine as well. CDC still recommends that because, again, we're talking about a lot of antibodies. So like people saying, well, I had it, so I don't need it. Not true. The CDC report says it's not true.
Definitely, and a few reasons for that. One is because we've now got Delta on the scene. So if you had COVID last year, for example, you probably got Alpha or Beta or even the original strain.
Right.
So you could get Delta. And the second reason is that getting that vaccine, again, really does boost that antibody response. But the timing of this matters here, Corey. So if you've had COVID, you don't want to get the vaccine for at least 60 to 90 days, because those antibodies that you have may actually go and inactivate that vaccine.
Okay.
And similarly, if you've received monoclonal antibodies because you've been exposed to COVID or because you've had COVID, those antibodies can kind of nullify the vaccine. So you want to make sure to give it that time period after the infection before you get vaccinated.
And you were talking about if you have COVID, you know, it lasts for the natural immunity, let's say 6 months, and then we're not really sure what happens, but with the vaccine, it lasts longer.
Significantly longer. In fact, we see that it really sort of cements it in there, because what it does is the vaccine almost serves as your booster, so to speak, from your natural infections. You got the infection, you got the vaccine, it really cements those memory B cells. So the factories that make those antibodies become kind of, you know, live in your lymph nodes.
Yeah. I see so many conversations about natural immunity and vaccine immunity, and so I'm glad you came on, because I know this report just came out yesterday, and as always with COVID and everything pandemic, there are a lot of questions.
For sure.
And that's why we bring you in. Dr. Kohli, thank you so much.